So we meet again. Today we're going to be talking about informative speeches. That's your first speech. The speech to inform us. After I make this video, I am going to make another descriptive video on how to upload a video to YouTube, because that's what I use. You can use whatever format you want, but if you try to send me a streaming video, it will take forever. Sometimes it doesn't go, but we'll talk about that when we talk about videos. So, speaking to inform, chapter 15. What are speeches to inform? Well, they are to give information. They're not to persuade one way or the other. They're not to, I don't like to say not to entertain, because I like entertaining speeches, but it's something to pass on a message. Now, you can talk about an object. You can talk about a rubber band ball. You can talk about a car. You can talk about a building. You can talk about a meal or a restaurant. But remember, don't persuade us. Anything that's tangible, you can give an informative speech on. But remember, time is not on your side. You have 5 to 7 minutes for your first speech. Don't try to cover too much stuff. If you try to cover too much stuff, you're going to run over time, you're going to get flustered, but don't cut yourself short and do under time either. Make sure you have a purpose. Your purpose is to inform your audience on something. Inform me on something. Unfortunately, I am your audience. You know, in real public speaking classes, you've got to tell the whole class stuff. We haven't gotten to that format here, so I'm going to be your audience. I have taught it where we required students to have an audience, but generally, this is my mom, this is my dad, this is my sister, this is my brother. That's not a public speaking audience. That's people you're used to all the time. The other option was a bunch of fraternity brothers that only showed up for the beer, and sometimes they gave them the beer before the speech. I actually had one student show me her audience, and it was a bunch of stuffed animals. So we're not even going that route. Maybe in the future we might come up with something, but with COVID-19 and social distancing and all, it's much easier just to say, I'm your audience. So I think that I ought to call this virtual speaking instead of public speaking, but I'm not the one to make the rules. Speak about a process. You can talk about a process. You can give an informative speech on how to change the oil in your car. You can give an informative speech on how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. Any systemic series of actions, you can give an informative speech on. You can give an informative speech on how to write a speech. You can give a speech about a process of how a car is made, the process of baking a cake. Anything that has a process, an algebraic equation if you want to. But don't get bogged down in the details. Remember, you have 5 to 7 minutes. And if you get too much into the details and too much in the little bits and pieces of it, you're going to lose us. Because this is a short speech to inform. Once again, avoid persuasion. You know, don't tell us that this is the best cake ever made. Don't tell us that we have to get behind this movement because it's the best for the economy and it's the best for society. Informative speeches do not persuade. If you get into persuasion, that's a persuasive speech, and that's a whole other topic. So, what else are we going to talk about? You can talk about events. Spring break, football game, prom, basketball game, World Series, family reunion. Any event that happens where things are going on, a race, a food event, food truck on Broadway, if they ever do that again, weddings. An event is something that happens and you can give an informative speech about that event. You can give a speech about a concept. ideas, beliefs, and theories. Got to be careful with that. I had a student one time, he gave a presentation on um, his relationship with God. And he cited his relationship with God. Now, I can't check that citation, so that didn't help me much. But basically, he alienated the whole audience because if you didn't believe in God the way he believed in God, then you're going to die and go to hell. And it was a persuasive speech to top it off. Now, there's all kinds of ideas and beliefs that you can talk about: recycling, global warming, economy, social justice. But remember, this is to inform us, not to persuade us. You have to be careful of jargon. Jargon is the language of your business or your field. You know, I was in the Army, we had a whole lot of jargon, and I could start speaking it, and most of you probably wouldn't get it. You veterans would. Some of it is not very appropriate. So, avoid jargon. You need to speak to us in a language we can understand. Um, Doctors, unfortunately, have a habit of speaking in doctor jargon. And unfortunately, we as a society say, okay, uh-huh, okay, yeah, uh-huh. And you don't know what the heck he said. You know, mechanics might talk in jargon, or computer people. You ever go get your computer repaired and they told you what was wrong with it and you had no clue what they were talking about? My grandson loves video games. And he will sit there for an hour and tell me about a video game. And I looked at him one day, I said, you know, when I speak Russian or German to you and you don't understand me? He said, yeah. I said, I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what this is or that is or that. I have no clue. So if you're going to tell us about a video game, you know, make sure that you use language that we can understand, because we may not all be familiar with that game. Focus on the big picture. What do you want us to know? What information do you want us to get out of this? Don't focus on the little minutia stuff, because if you focus on that, you're going to lose us. Don't overestimate what we know. That's what happens when my grandson talks to me about his video games. I don't have a clue what he's talking about. For some odd reason, he believes I do. Try to find a way to relate this subject to your audience. If you're talking about a race, you can ask how many people have run 5Ks. If you're talking about a wedding, how many people have participated in a wedding? How many people have been a bridesmaid? How many people have been a best man? How many weddings have you attended? Funeral. You know, hopefully none of us are the guest of honor at the funeral. But what happens at a funeral? Inform people about what happens at different particular funerals. Don't think we know what you're talking about, because more often than not, we don't. You're a subject matter expert on it. And to be honest with you, it's something I have difficulty with at times myself when I talk about public speaking. I have been teaching public speaking since 2009. I've done public speaking in my military career and everything else. A lot of times I forget you are learning and you don't know yet. And if that happens in one of my presentations, please tell me about it, because I really want to make sure you understand. I don't want you to have the same blank stare that you have when the doctor tells you something that you don't have a clue what they're talking about. Don't be too technical. You know, I could tell you the torque settings on the head of a 350 engine. You probably don't care. And in a 3 to 5 minute video, it would just take up space that you need for other stuff. Avoid abstracts. You know, paint a picture, like I told you about the other day, the blind people at the Egret Rookery. You know, don't leave me wondering, you know, if you're talking about the world's biggest pizza, how big it is. You know, and I might imagine it's the size of a football field. and you might be talking about something the size of a basketball court. I don't know. So make sure that you're not abstract when you're telling us this information. Personalize it. Once again, find a way to connect to your audience. If you connect to your audience and your audience can get the picture, can understand what you're saying, then that's great. Because we want to follow along then. If you don't personalize it and connect with us, it's just some abstract thing you're talking about. And be creative. Don't just, hi, my name is Vern. Today we're going to talk about squirrel fishing. Squirrel fishing, don't have that monotone voice. Move around a little bit. I prefer standing up when I'm giving presentations, but it's kind of limited via video because I'd be in and out of the frame all the time. But be creative. Find ways, novel ways to tell us something. We may all know that the grass is green and the sky is blue. But if you find a way to tell us in descriptive language, like the person did for the blind lady, that said, I used to could see. They used creative, descriptive language so we could understand it. Don't just tell me that this angel food cake weighs 1.5 pounds. Tell me about the angel food cake. Make me taste it when you're talking about it. So that's that's informative speaking. You're going to inform us about stuff. You're going to tell us about something and not persuade us to like it or dislike it or vote for it or call our congressman. You're going to tell us about it and just feed us information. That's all we want. So that's chapter 15. I'll post one more video about how to upload. And like I said, I'm going to tell you how to upload to YouTube. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Looking forward to your speeches. I hope the semester's going good for you. I haven't gotten that many phone calls or emails about anything. A couple of you missed the test, but we got that straight. But if you have a problem, if you don't understand how to post on the discussion or whatever, email me, and we'll try to get it straight. I'll talk to you in the next video. I would really love it if I could sit there and see you, but I can't. So maybe one day we'll meet. But until then, good luck on your presentation. I know you're going to do great. Believe in yourself. I do.